Hi, I'm Ron Jess for Jessfor30, and welcoming another good friend of mine. Seems like every week we have a different one, but this time he's a real special guy, and his family is well known in Metro Detroit and Michigan, really, the Satterlund family. Welcome, Seabrook Satterlund.
I appreciate it, Ron.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yep, good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
Thanks. So your family, you grew up in Scandia, northern Michigan, near Marquette.
Yeah.
And you grew up on a commune?
Well, my dad decided not to be part of the family business. He worked there in college, and my grandfather started Satterlund Supply, the industrial piping company down here, and my dad decided to go to college and move up north, and he just never left. So, we had, he was into Buckminster Fuller, and, they were old hippies. And so we had these geodesic domes that he built all over the place. Like most kids got up, like a tree fort, and I got a geodesic dome, next to a slide that was real weird with these plexiglass triangles. And so he had a couple other ones, one for his band and another one back in the woods. And there were these little trails back there, and, there's different people, Colleen Cole and Little Richard, and different people that lived in these domes through the years. So you'd just be people walking around all the time with animals and, cornfields and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Long way from Royal Oak, Michigan.
Yeah, it was a, the weird thing is when you're a kid and you live in a 40-acre hobby farm in the middle of nowhere, you got no neighbors. So you got no friends. We'd ride my little 50 Honda mini bike all through the trails by myself. And, every once in a while a kid would be up the road and you'd find out about it and you'd try to just have somebody to play with. Yeah. So a kid from a hockey team might come back with me and spend a night or something like that here and there. But it was pretty much just me and my sister and my dad. I mean, my whole childhood was just mostly me and my dad.
Was your dad a hockey player?
He played. He was a goalie as a kid, but, he didn't play anything other than just for fun. I think he might have played on a high school team or something. But he and my mom both played together on a team. My mom was another woman, in Marquette, and I remember seeing the old pictures and being there with the old equipment. And I spent a lot of time at softball fields and hockey rinks watching my parents play as a kid.
That's awesome. The Satterlund name in Michigan is great. And I really believe I'm in the business, H.O. Traris.
Yeah.
It's our 100th year anniversary. Pressure gauges.
We did a lot of work together, man. You were
thermometers.
Great.
You were too.
I appreciate
You
that.
knew the city. You know, it was funny. I enjoyed working with you because I was a national sales manager, and when I finally got out away from that and was able to concentrate on Michigan, you knew Detroit and around Detroit like I knew Cleveland.
Yeah.
Because I was 7 years in Cleveland as just I had Northeast Ohio.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
And we were back there last weekend, my wife and I.
Yeah, Detroit's an interesting place. I mean, there's a lot of little nooks and crannies that you got to go to try to find business. And I mean, when I was a young salesman, and my uncle said, head out, gave me a car and a phone and nothing, and I built a territory. So you had to go find all those little areas that other people didn't know about.
Yeah, and you did. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I enjoyed.
And that was back before the internet. We had like the Dun and Bradstreet, and what were those books that you could read in to find different industries.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't just Google. Who uses industrial pipe fittings. It was opening a book, and I remember having the maps.
Oh yeah, me too. The red county map.
Right,
yeah.
Looking for the street in the glossary, and then.
Yeah, the kids today they don't understand how they have it made.
You know what I should do? I should take one of my stepkids next time we go somewhere. I should go buy him a map.
Yeah.
And when we get ready to go, I'm going to hand it to him and say, all right, you tell us how to get there. And just watch him squirm. I'd love that. I'm going to do
North,
that.
East.
I should write that down.
If you're going south and you look left, which direction? Is that must be east, right? I mean, if you look right, it's west.
It'd be interesting to see if they could even do it.
Probably not. Well, they haven't been taught. You got to understand they shouldn't be able to. I mean, they're not being taught those things.
I guess what do you need them for anymore, right?
Mm-hmm. So I'm back to Satterlund Supply, founded in 1964, 69 years in business in the pipe, valve, and fitting business. And those are my people. I do these podcasts, and it's fun and stuff. But, 40 years, H.O. Traris and Marlin Manufacturing. But people like Ferguson Enterprise, who you kind of compete with today, you used to compete with over at Satterlund.
Right.
But now with your new company...
We buy from Ferguson. We just bought stuff from him this morning. So my grandfather worked for Ford Motor Company back in the 60s, and he was buying stainless steel piping from different places, and he had a really hard time finding it. And he said, "Man, if I could create a PVF, a pipe valve and fitting company that had stainless steel, it was expensive. It still is." He says, "I could make a mint." So he basically founded Satterlund Supply on the idea of having stainless steel in stock for companies to purchase locally.
Well, I heard a funny story last week. I was with not Bill McGivern, but Keith Shatko, the two owners of Macomb. And I'm partial to them. I mean, they've been great to me. My son works in Flint for Macomb. So
Right.
Bill McGivern or Keith Shatko told me in Livonia, he said, "Hey, Ron," he goes, "when Bill and I got in business, he said, I ordered some stainless." And he said, "I ordered $40,000 worth of stainless." And he went back all excited to see it. And he said it was in about a 3-foot by 4-foot box.
Right, in the back of a pickup truck, right?
Yeah, it wasn't what he thought for 30 grand, but they're good people. And, Aetna Supply and some of the others, there's some really good. And I don't think people understand pipe valve and fitting makes everything go. The Little Caesars Arena, pipe valve and fittings is where it's at. I mean, for getting things.
There's a lot of growth in Detroit right now, and so there's a lot of contracts out there. And I remember when I started as salesman, I'd go to some places and they'd see I was from Satterlund because I had a pad of paper or something, and some of the old timers would come up to me and say, and they'd find out my last name was Satterlund.
Mm-hmm.
And I got so many amazing compliments about my grandfather.
Did you?
I mean, it'd be 10 years in, and some old guy that probably shouldn't be working, should have been retired, is like, "Man, I remember your grandfather." And they were always sincere about saying what a fair, honest guy he was, as well as the employees that worked there in those times. And one of the things that I've always said is that I really wanted to model myself after my grandfather, and for so many great things that I heard about him through the years as a businessman and a person, I always said, if I could be remembered that way, if I could run businesses the way that he did, I know that I'd look back on it and feel like I was successful, and that's what I've done.
That's awesome. That's good. I'm going to give a plug for your Uncle Fred too. Fred Satterlund's running it now, and he's it's like the Walmart effect. I mean, I love Macomb, Aetna, Ferguson's great, but the mom and pop, what Satterlund is now, and I don't mean that as disrespect in any way, but you're fighting these huge companies, and he's done a pretty good job holding it together there in Warren.
Yeah, Satterlund Supply is a real niche in that market, and Fred was great to me. I mean, I worked there for, I think, 16, 17 years, and I mean, he was a great mentor. He was fair with me. He complimented me. Mm-hmm. He gave me opportunities. He made things difficult, but I always stepped up to the challenge, and he was amazing to me the whole time, and I still talk to him from time to time, and he always has been. So I can't say enough good things about him.
No, and he wins the award for the biggest character in the business.
Yeah.
I mean, I've sat in his office and laughed my ass off. He's a funny dude.
Yeah.
When did you start working at Satterlund?
He sent me a letter to college. I went to school at Union College in upstate New York and played Division I hockey there, and sent me a letter my freshman year and said, "Hey, do you want to work here in the summer?" And I just remember thinking, why the hell is he, because I mean, I was from the UP, right? I didn't know anything about Satterlund Supply. And I talked to my grandmother at the time, and she goes, well, maybe he wants you to be the heir to the throne. Maybe he wants you to run the business someday. And I'm like, well, that's weird. It'd be like, knowing a cousin in
Oh, you didn't really know him at all?
Well, I knew Fred, but I didn't know Satterlund Supply. Like I said, it'd be like if you had a cousin in Alaska that owned a party store, and he called you and said, "Hey, do you want to work here?" And you're like, why the hell would I do that? Anyway, so I went there and worked there in the summers, and then he said, why don't you come work for me full time, and I'll put you through your MBA program. And so it was I think September 4th, 1997. I showed up there, got a little apartment with a high school buddy of mine who was already living down here, and
You've come a long way.
Well, you've done great. It's been a fun road.
You do have a good reputation, and I pride myself in that. I talk about that almost every show. I think 10 shows. I think I always talk about the fact that Don Stuber, he ran Sarco in Northeast Ohio, and Don Stuber, and he's about 97 now. And I noticed at the shows I watch, you observe, and I saw everybody loved him more than they loved anyone. And he called on all the competitors like we did. Mm-hmm. And I got him in a car one time, and I said, "Hey, Don, what's the secret? What is it about you?" And he said, I said, "I'm 28 years old. What do I do?" And he, what he said? He said, Ron, this business, he says, it's the money you make at the end of the day and your reputation.
Right.
Protect that rep. And in reality, he meant more than anything. And
well, it's something you have to earn, you know.
There's people we know who have come and died in our business who didn't quite have that. You know, it happens.
I totally
bad
agree.
reputations.
Yep, I totally agree.
If I remember correctly, you lived on a boat on the Detroit River for a while, and you've done some things that just are fantastic.
Yeah, you know, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I bought my first house, and I had a couple of roommates, and I knew that moved out, and my Uncle Fred had a boat at the Detroit Yacht Club, and next to him there was a couple of resident doctors that lived on their boat. It was like a 45-foot Commander or something like that, and big old wooden boat, and they would just take their dinghy back and forth to work at the, what is that, Detroit Receiving, or what's across the river there, whatever that hospital is, and I just thought it was the coolest thing, and I'm like, well, I can do that. So I remember just driving around, and you know, I went through the magazines and looked at maybe a dozen boats, and I ended up buying a 1986 main ship 36-foot aft cabin cruiser and lived there for a year and a half at the yacht club. So it was weird, man. I had a couple of heaters in there in the winter. You know, you'd go in there and, you know, you had to keep them running with bubblers and get dressed and shower inside the club. But, you know, waking up in the morning, throwing a pair of sweats on and a sweatshirt and, you know, flip-flops in the snow running into the club. And it was weird. I mean, I didn't entertain much in the winter, obviously. But, you know, I'll tell you, if it was in Chicago, you're right on the river or something there's lots going on, new ball game. But especially back then in 2001 in Belle Isle, you know, it wasn't cool then. It wasn't as nice, you know. It was a little
I thought it
dangerous.
was a little, you told me about it. I thought, man, are you, first of all, I think you got to be cold out there, Seabrook. The other thing is do you have a gun?
No, there were some interesting runs back, like coming out. You know, it was back then I was in my 20s, so I was the bars and stuff with my buddies and coming home at 1 or 2 in the morning.
You had to be having a blast.
Coming through Belle Isle, you know, at 4 miles an hour, whatever the speed limit is, and you know, there's all kinds of parties going on, and I'm just trying to get to the little club there, but. Yeah, I always said, you know, I wouldn't do it again, but I'm glad I did it. I'm glad that I did it. I would never take that back, but, you know, I certainly would rethink it a little differently next time. Yeah. And I'd be in, like, Miami or something.
Well, you know, I say that, too, about being married. I've been married 43 years, and I maybe, no.
Yeah.
So here's a good one, another one. At one point you said, hey, to yourself, you said, Seabrook, it's time to go to Pamplona in Spain and run with the bulls. Who does that,
you know,
Seabrook?
So I had owned back in the day. I was kind of dabbling in I was still working for Satterlund Supply, but I was dabbling in, you know, some construction stuff, which my company obviously grew through the years. But I had some ads. You know, I was probably doing $200,000 at the time or something like that, and you know, nothing. And I had some ads on Craigslist for outside investors. A lot of people were coming from out of state to look at properties in Michigan. I said, well, I did a lot of renovation loans through banks, so I knew renovation lending. I knew the rental market because I owned rentals. I knew construction, so I just said, hey, I can help you. So I had a guy named Jerry Roach from Laguna Beach, California, got in touch with me, and I did a bunch of work for him, sight unseen. I'd never met the guy, you know, and one day he said, hey, I'm going to come into town. Where can I get a hotel? I said, just stay with me, Jerry. And he said, all right. So he showed up, and he stayed with me for like 3 weeks. He goes, oh yeah, I'm going to be here 3 weeks. Okay. But anyways, he was in some peñas out in Pamplona, and he had gone for like, you know, I think he's 70, mid-70s now. No, he just turned 80. I went to his 80th birthday a couple months ago.
Where was that? Out there in California?
I went up to California. But yeah, so he took me, kind of just held my hand through the streets, and, you know, taught me what it was like to, you know, the importance of the value of the friendships that were made through the years at Pamplona. And yeah, I think I've run with bulls I've been there I think 4 times. So I think I've run like maybe 19, 20, 21 times.
Wow.
Yeah, I only got gored. Well, I didn't get gored. I got flipped once by a bull, and I got it pretty good in the side. I still have a little scar here. He didn't gore me, but the horns literally scraped my side. A couple of them. You take a look at some of the pictures. Crazy. It's funny. Once my wife, when you know, I've got twin 5-year-olds, when she was pregnant with them, I went back there. It was either right after they were born or right before they were born. I just had a different perception. Yeah. I was there, and I'm like, I don't want to get.
You're killed. A little afraid now.
Yeah,
right?
I was like, I can't wait to get home and see my kids. And it was just a different world. I'm not, you know, it's definitely you talk about adrenaline. I mean,
Yeah.
when you hear that gun shoot off and you're in the street waiting, and then you see, it's like you see if you ever watch a video of a tidal wave or something, you just see everybody start coming, and then you figure out a way to slide in, and it's running with those bulls is it's the biggest adrenaline rush I've ever had, and something that I probably won't do again, at least not now. But I had so much fun doing it through the years.
Well, since 1911, there have been 16 people died.
Less than you'd think.
Less, yeah, when you think of it. The average is 1,900 people run a day for how many days?
10 days.
10 days.
If you went and watched it, you'd think people were, and I think the perception is that people are dying every day, but it just doesn't happen. And I'm not exactly sure why, because if you go and watch it, it's pretty dangerous. But
the older you get, is fear does come in. I mean, I was up at Mount Alyeska. My godson, Brandon Jess, he's a builder up there, and we've been up there 4 or 5
Where's that?
times.
What state?
Near Girdwood, Alaska.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Mount Alyeska. MTV's done stuff where they drop people out of helicopters into water. There's some water in the middle of the mountain. But I remember going with him with the gondola to the top. And he said, "Come and look at what it's like." And we walked inside. The summertime. It was July or August. He said,
cool, eh?
He said, "Let's. Here's where I go off, Uncle Ron." And I went, and it was like a cliff.
What does he do?
You're out of your
Rappel
mind.
or ski? Or?
Skis. He skis. Yeah,
gotcha.
he skis down there. He hunts bear. He's wild. Brandon Jess.
Yeah, you got to be a different breed to live in Alaska.
Yeah. Yeah, they moved from Charlevoix, and that's where he's at.
Got it.
You're currently the president and owner of Whiskey Kitchen Design Studio on Main Street in a pretty hopping Royal Oak, right?
Yeah.
It always has been, but now it's really
it's
big, right?
Yeah, it's growing. I mean, I started Detroit Build, technically 2001, I think, as Seabrook LLC, and then went on my own, left Satterlund Supply, I don't know how many years ago. It must have been around 6, 7, 8 years ago, and Detroit Build is really the bigger company. We're probably about a $5 million a year company, and then Whiskey Kitchen is 1.5.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we do a lot of we have anywhere from 50 to 100 men and women in the field. 12 to 15 people in our showroom. A lot of employees as opposed to subcontractors. So we kind of take things a little differently. We treat people a little differently and listen and try to kind of understand what they want and why, and then try to walk them through that process and try to make it as comfortable as possible. So it's gone pretty well, and we have a great time. We've got great people that work for me and with me, and I couldn't have asked for anything more.
Well, we moved here 30-some years ago from Ohio and picked out Brighton. We love Brighton.
Yeah.
Brighton's got everything. Brighton is
It's a cool little
it's
city.
It's a cool city. And we got North Villanova.
Honestly, I didn't know. Is this where you live, in Brighton?
Yeah, we've
I
been
didn't
here
know that.
30 years, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My kids went to school out here, and
Yeah.
grandkids do, some of them. But and you're in servicing Royal Oak, West Bloomfield, Birmingham.
We're everywhere. I mean, we do a lot of
Are
work
you?
in Detroit. Tons of work in Detroit.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
we're in Indian Village. Like I said, we've got Magnolia Network is doing a couple shows. We just finished up with them on a property on Pingree and one on Boston. And those will air starting early January. I think it comes out the 29th because we're going to have a little watch party, but I think that's just on their site. So there's a couple episodes coming out, and we'll probably do some more as well. But Detroit is really where, we do Grosse Pointe.
Mm-hmm.
We go, Ann Arbor. We go anywhere. A lot of stuff in Huntington Woods and Royal Oak just because we're right there. But a lot of stuff in Detroit, too. Probably 50% of our work's in Detroit.
Well, we talked about a half hour ago before this started, and I said, as far as we always do charities and foundations. I've got buddies who do good stuff, and I thought, well, if I'm going to do these, I'm going to try to do it where you get good people. And I knew one of the reasons I came and saw, I called you a month or so ago to do this. And one of the reasons was because I had heard through the business after you had left Satterlund, I had heard you were doing some good things. You were helping people, and you were...
it's just, I think it's part of your responsibility as a business owner. We give to the police department and several other, the problem is once you give to one charity, then you got a million of them calling you, which, you got to pick and choose. But yeah, we do, we give money, but at the same time, like I said, I mentioned this earlier, we had a veteran that came to us, and he was an older guy, had a caretaker, and he was in a wheelchair, couldn't get out of his house. So we went over, this is probably 2 summers ago, and we built a ramp for him, so he could get in and out of his house, didn't charge him anything, and Another scenario with some vocational teachers we've been working with some special needs kids that are highly functional, and we're trying to find ways to get them in and work with someone either in our showroom with our designers, or in the field with whoever. It could be delivery guys, could be carpenters, could be tile setters, drywallers. Trying to get them to find their purpose in the world, find a place where they feel comfortable or things that they're interested in, and that could be something that they do forever, So you gotta get them there and give them the opportunity to be able to figure that out. And I've been given a lot of opportunities by a lot of people through the years, and so anytime something comes up where I can give back, I do.
Well, the name of your company, Whiskey Kitchen and Design, it just makes me think a little bit.
It's a whisk, Ron. A whisk?
It's not what I think of. I'm Irish. Come on. You see this little pin here?
Yeah, I see it.
On. I mean, I wear it for all the shows, but it reminds me of May 28th. I woke up at 5 in the morning, and Memorial Day weekend up at Houghton Lake, and, after 50 years of drinking, I saw an old man out Saturday night before, and he said, "Ron, do you know what ruins most family vacations on Houghton Lake?" And no, I don't know. So he said,
"Kids."
yeah, alcohol. So I went in and poured the stuff down the drain. Did I tell you that story?
That's a good story.
It is a good story, and it wasn't for to hurt anybody or because it was a whole refrigerator that had been full of pops and different eggs and bacon, and the freezer was full of the same, frozen stuff. And all of a sudden, after 7 years, it was totally loaded with everything.
Yeah. So
I got up at 5 in the morning and poured it all down the drain, one after another, and closed it. And then we left and didn't tell anybody. And, but, the thing about, it's crazy. That's nuts, right? It's like you running with the bulls. But, I kind of call it cathartic, but I also think it was for me.
Yeah.
That was for me, man. I was drinking too much, and it came after COVID, and
I get it.
I'm not embarrassed about it, man.
Yeah, I told you,
no embarrassment.
I'm a hockey player, man. We drink after hockey. We drink, during hockey sometimes, But I told you well, maybe I didn't tell you. I stopped drinking about 3.5 months ago.
You did tell me, in your office,
And I still have a beer here and there, and I'm not saying I'm not a drinker, but I wanted to reevaluate, why I drink. Because I was coming home and I'm drinking, 2-3 bourbons from 10 to midnight on a Tuesday, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing this for? And I just remember, and I went back, and after I stopped 3 months later, so this was only a few weeks ago, and my metrics for my health. He said, your health, you're in such good health right now. He said, most people have to be on medication to get where you're at. And so, I tell you what, I didn't realize how it impacted my health, but it was amazing, amazing. So it's...
I convinced myself I couldn't do this. This was a dream of mine.
Yeah.
And I convinced myself in my mind, when I was drinking, it was late at night, and I said, there's no way. You're up, you're down, you're up, you're down. You've convinced yourself you can do this every other day because you're going to control it.
Yeah.
Bullshit. It doesn't work. It does not work that way. But anyway, on a happier note, it's Christmas. We got Santa here, the dancing Santa that doesn't. I tried to get him working at 2 in the morning last night, and he doesn't work anymore.
He's tired, Ron. He's been doing this for years.
My kids and grandkids wore him out.
Yeah.
But Michelle she asked me to give you a special homemade gift for Christmas. And,
all right.
This is her awesome banana walnut Christmas bread.
Awesome. I love banana walnut.
Oh, it's
eat one in the car when I get going. Well, thank you so much. It's great.
You're welcome. We try to do that, make things personal.
Yeah, well, that's delicious. If you don't mind, I'm going to bring it back to my office, and we got some little parties going on this week, and we're going to take that down.
Oh, yeah, you'll enjoy it.
Appreciate it.
So you love hockey, and your kids are involved in hockey now?
Yep. My stepsons and my kids both.
Are they?
So yeah, I've got a couple 5-year-old twins, and they're just doing learn to skate, but they're doing great. And then I coached my stepson Dominic's 14U Royal Oak Falcons team, and we won silver sticks in Port Huron a couple weeks ago. Lost in overtime in a tournament 2 weeks ago in Alpena, but I think we're 21-3-1 or something like that. So we're having a good season. So we've been having a lot of fun, and coaching's not that I'm looking for things to do, but it certainly is, it certainly is something that is giving me, giving back and then getting back, because, the appreciation that I get from the parents and the kids, and, just trying to change lives. I mean, I remember I was in the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, a long time ago, and I think Tommy, my little brother, is mid-20s now, but I mean, I remember his mom crying, telling me, the only reason that Tommy graduated high school is because of you. And I was just like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
what did I do?
Yeah, I mean, I was just a friend of the kid, and
Yeah.
I had no idea what kind of impact I could have. But, to think you could come in and coach these kids and talk to them about, who hockey players are and how we're looked at in the world. And I always tell them, I said, you're different. I said, and you have higher expectations. There's higher expectations for you as a hockey player. And I said, you need to keep that. And so we teach a lot about hockey, but a lot about life as well.
Well, my grandson plays with football in Brighton with Kevin Holbridge's son, and TJ Hensick. We see him out here, and they all talk about this Jackson Hole. And now, were you semi-pro, or had you thought about?
Well,
you played with these guys, though, right?
Well, I played with those. Yeah, so I played Division I college hockey at Union College, who, like I said, won the national championships in 2014, way after my time. But then I played, I think, like 20 some semi-pro games for Toledo, Kansas City, Port Huron, just no big deal games. But I played at a high level. I skate with the Wings alumni from time to time. I played with them up in Alpena and St. Ignace and Indiana and St. Clair Shores. When they need a guy, I'll go and skate with them or whatever. But every once in a while I get an opportunity. The Chicago Chargers asked if I wanted to come and play with them out in these full check tournaments out west.
Nice.
Jackson Hole, Vail, Sun Valley, and so I've done a bunch of those, and he was part of that group. And great. Both those guys are great guys and amazing players. So.
Oh no, you guys are awesome. You hockey players are a different breed. I was a baseball guy, and I think we're a little different too, especially us pitchers.
Yeah, right.
I've got buddies out here pitched, and that was we just thought different. You get into the last inning and you're pitching a no-hitter and you got 2 outs, and you don't understand that until you have that ball in your hand.
Right, right.
You have that ball, and you're gonna win or you're gonna lose.
I can't imagine.
That's so cool. It's
like
the
a
coolest
goaltender,
feeling.
sort of.
Yeah. When you got the
Overtime.
shutout. And,
Yeah.
Well, TJ Hensick, I saw him last Christmas Eve. He goes to St. Mary Magdalene, where we do, and he had the kids outside, and I wasn't enjoying the sermon, so
Does he live in Brighton?
I left. He was out in Howell, I think.
Got it.
He's got some donut shops, Tim Hortons, I
really?
think, or Dunkin' Donuts. Him and his wife, they got a bunch of them.
Yeah.
He is the coolest guy on the planet. TJ is he's and nice, I know his dad's an attorney in Howell and that.
Yeah.
I remember his Michigan days. We'd go watch him.
Yeah. Great player.
So tell me about your love for the classic cars and trucks and motorcycles.
Like I said, when I lived on that farm growing up, I mean, there's a picture of my dad lined up all of his cars, and there's a picture of me sitting on the hood of a 1970s Land Rover. He just had, it wasn't like we had exotic cars, but just old cars. He had an old Norton, he had an old Mercedes-Benz sedan. We had a Ford tractor. We always had a Ford pickup truck. We just always had cars. He made a kit car MG in our garage once. Again, nothing was fancy. They weren't super nice, but there was just a lot of them. So growing up, when I was able to afford a car, I went out with my buddy Scott Schneider, and in 1997, I graduated from college, and we went, and remember, $3,200. We bought a 1957 Buick Super up in Flint and drove it home, and it was the first one. It's fun to have those old cars and see how they drive compared to the new ones.
I had a '63 Meteor with the big steering wheel and 8 tracks, and I had a wooden thing that I made for my 8 tracks at Woodcraft class in the morning, and I just had it loaded with that. We had our cigars in the car, and we had, whatever else we were into, a lot of different stuff.
I always say those big cars, like they're like taking off from Royal Oak to Brighton and just floating down the road.
Yeah,
great, but not great cars to run and grab a gallon of milk. Tough
pretty
to park.
much.
But I had a couple other ones. I've got a '52 Chevy pickup that actually I let my buddy take out to San Diego, and then he took it to New York. So he's in. We're gonna meet. We've shipped it out to Denver, and we flew there and met, and then we drove it from Denver to San Diego a few years ago, and now we're going to meet in, he lives in, where does he live? In Ithaca. We're going to fly out there in the
New
fall
York?
here. Yeah, in the spring. We're going to, like in May or April or so, we're going to drive it back here. So I haven't seen the truck in about 5-6 years, but I'm going to get that one back.
Nice. Seabrook, I just want to ask you, we're almost done here, I think. Your dad was a pretty liberal guy. I mean, you're on a commune, your mom, and both of them. And I know we talked about Ohio and, the shootings down there at Kent State.
Yeah.
Your dad, he was a professor, I think. Where or why did he name you Seabrook? It's a cool name, but no offense, it's a pretty cool. It's not your normal name.
Hippie parents, man. I mean, my real first name is actually Davin, which is a Finnish name. My mom's Finnish, my dad's Swedish. Davin Seabrook's actually my middle name, but they're just weirdos, man. My one sister's name is Sony. My other sister's name is Serene.
Yeah.
And Kyler is my half brother, but they were just a little bit odd, and they lived in a sort of an alternative, like UP backwoods hippie world, and I guess at that week Seabrook sounded cool to him. So I mean, my name was Davin, but he just called me Seabrook. He wouldn't call me my first name. And so after the first year or so, apparently it just stuck with Seabrook, and everybody called me Seabrook from there on out. So I don't know. It's been my name's Seabrook, and like 2 bodies of water. I've had to say that 1,000 times through the years.
My son Jeremy, he loved Ireland, and we took them there when they were out of high school and college, the 3 kids, and they ran around with the relatives, the Madden family. My grandma was Harry Madden, and grandpa was Harry Madden, and we'd go to Northern Ireland. They told us at the time, they said, there's this guy named McElroy. They said, he will be the greatest golfer in the world. Yeah. He was 10. He was 10 years old.
And here he is, huh?
Here he is, right up there in Port Stewart, Port Rush,
Cool.
But we went out there. But Jeremy come back, and he really hung out with those kids over. One of the kids was named Cormac, so he liked it. So our grandson is Cormac, Robert Jess. Yeah,
awesome.
Great name.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I remember being there one time, and the guy I was in Ireland and sat next to a guy who must have been 150 years old, and he had a tall thing of Guinness. And he said, he looked at him and he says, my wife makes me come here once a day to drink 3 of these for my health.
Oh.
I said, okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's different over there.
We're straight out of the tap, man.
Yeah.
They're different. A Guinness in Ireland is different than a Guinness here. I think you know that. Smooth.
Yeah, it's a little different, but we were up on the farm, a family farm up there. Enjoyed that time. It was great to have your kids, and they all know what's going on. Jeremy, and Christy and Laura. We're flying over. We're on the plane, and we get over, and to a certain point, and all of a sudden I'm walking through the back of the plane, and I see him serving Jeremy some Jack and Coke. He was like 17. I go, hey, what are you doing?
Good night. Good night.
No, he said we had crossed the line, that he was now legal. So yeah, he was. I just said, whatever. Go ahead.
And he didn't just fall asleep after that.
No, he was. I think he had some practice.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he was okay. But,
good for him.
Okay, Seabrook, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Ron.
Really good to see you.
Yeah,
I knew this would be great.
Yeah, good to see you too.
You too.
Whoa.
I've got some gifts for you, a card.
Oh, awesome.
Some sparkling white grape juice.
Delicious.
And here's where we always end.
Need me to open that for you?
Yeah, why don't you open? I'm old, you know that. You tough hockey players.
I don't know if we can get this bottom part.
Yeah, that'll come off. You just
Where do these things come from?
Well, I make them. We usually go to
you?
Eastern Market, or we.
Gonna burn my face off, or what is this?
No, these are garlic dill. They're not gonna hurt you.
All right.
We do have some that are jalapeno and asparagus.
Can I eat it?
Yeah, go ahead. You have to rate it, is what we do. And these are yours to take with your party. But you have to, on a 1 to 10, give us a rating that.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't eat a lot of dill pickles.
Okay.
But it's actually the best dill pickle I've ever had.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, it's delicious, actually. Like if you asked me if I wanted a dill pickle if we were out to dinner together, I'd say no.
Yeah,
Thanks.
okay.
But this is good. It's
Yeah,
delicious.
they're crunchy, right?
And all my kids love pickles. All
Oh.
4 of them love love pickles. So I'm gonna. Maybe we'll take a video for you.
Would you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Merry
And
Christmas.
if they don't like them, it's not my fault.
You can blame me, Seabrook.
Well, Merry Christmas to you too.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks for inviting me. It's
Yeah,
been great.
thanks a lot.